Hi, Dawn Kirkham here and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to celebrate all things spooky with this Halloween edition of my video. So if you don't know me very well, you probably don't know that I am a paranormal investigator and I have been for around 25 years. My interest in the paranormal grew when I was first developing as a medium, and I can honestly say that my abilities as a medium were definitely accelerated through doing this work. As I was learning, I sat in many psychic development circles, and it was while I was sitting in a circle with a group of ladies that would go to people's homes to clear spirits, I found my calling, and the rest is history. I was mentored by a spiritualist medium and schooled in the art of the seance, table tipping and glass moving. So it seems very fitting that this video is all about spiritualism in my now hometown of Victoria, and in particular one of the famous spiritualists called Simeon Duck. Now, the origins of the spiritualist movement is credited to two sisters, Margaret and Kate Fox of Hydesville, New York. They began to communicate with the spirit of a peddler through rapping noises on the 31st of March 1848. Through the publicity given to the Fox sisters' spirit rappings, interest in spiritualism spread rapidly, and it was in Canada by 1850, and it probably reached BC at least in 1870. Now, one of the most prominent people in Canada with an interest in spiritualism was Prime Minister Mackenzie. So close to home in Victoria, BC, there were a number of prominent business leaders, merchants, public figures, etc., who classed themselves as spiritualists and who would regularly hold seances in their homes. Now, one such figure was Simeon Duck. Born 1st December 1834 in St. Catharines, Ontario, Duck came to British Columbia by way of Panama in 1859. On his arrival, Duck worked a claim in the mines on the Fraser River before establishing a wagon and carriage company here in Victoria. In 1865, Duck married Sarah Miller, and now a successful businessman in the area, he represented Victoria City in the Legislative Assembly of BC. So he was a prominent figure in the community and serving the provincial cabinet as Minister of Finance. He was also a volunteer in the fire department, holding many various positions, including chief engineer. He was also a member of the local Masonic Lodge, rising to the heights of provincial Grand Master. But was he the clean-cut conservative figure we might think? In April 1886, the sex trade flourished in Victoria. Among the brothel owners was Simeon Duck, who was serving as finance minister at the time. And of course, he was a spiritualist. So let's find out more about Simeon Duck. So I'm really excited today. I'm off to interview John Adams, who's a local author and historian. He's also the operator of the Discover the Past Ghost Walks and Ghost Bus Tour. He's also the founding president of the Old Cemeteries Society, and that's where I'm meeting him, at the Ross Bay Cemetery. And he's going to share with me some of the history and some of the life and times of a well-known character in Victoria called Simeon Duck, and I'm excited to know more. So here I am in Ross Bay Cemetery with the amazing John Adams. So John Adams is a historian. He's the founding president of the Old Cemeteries Society, of course, Ross Bay Cemetery being one of the flagships for that group, and is also the owner-operator of the Discover the Past Ghost Walks and also the Ghost Bus Tours as well. Amazing guy, so knowledgeable. Absolutely delighted to have some time with John. And I was doing a little bit digging around, and probably the best description that I found about John was on the website, and it said that John was a historian, a public servant. He was also a raconteur, ghost storyteller, and definitely somebody who preserves the history and the integrity of this amazing place. So thank you, John, for being there with us.
Oh, Dawn, I'm glad you invited me.
Excellent. So John, tell us a little bit about Victoria as it was in Simeon Duck's day?
Well, Duck arrived at an amazing time. He came in 1859, and of course there were First Nations here for thousands of years, and there were fur traders for a decade or so, and then 1858, a huge gold rush. And Duck arrived because of the gold rush from Ontario. He was born in St. Catharines, and it was a boom town. What had been a place of maybe 500 people, all included, suddenly burst at the seams, and 30,000 people had arrived during the summer of 1858. And Duck came the next year, and he went up to the goldfields briefly, but when he came back, it was kind of like a Wild West town. Boardwalks, dirt streets, muddy streets in the winter, of course, false fronts. There were no gunfights on the streets, but it was a pretty wild place. Saloons everywhere, cheap hotels, false-fronted buildings, and the occasional brick building being built, but it was a pretty wild place, but a booming place.
Yeah.
And so Duck came at that time, and he lived in Victoria for the rest of his days, and he saw the wooden buildings gradually being replaced by brick buildings. There were still some wooden buildings even at the end of the 1800s. And gradually the dirt streets got paved with wooden blocks or with bricks and anything else to make a hard surface. But it was a remote place in some ways. The nearest major city was San Francisco.
Right.
At the time that Duck arrived. In fact, when he got here, he came through San Francisco. That's how everybody got here, unless they did it the hard way and came by canoe across the continent.
That would be a tough way to come. So, obviously we're talking about Simeon Duck here, and we are in front of Simeon Duck's grave. And so, John, you're going to share a little bit about the infamous Simeon Duck. Of course, he was a very public figure, but he also had a very interesting side to him as well, and we'd love to hear more about that.
Indeed. He was born in St. Catharines, Ontario, and I took an interest in that because I wasn't born in St. Catharines, but I lived in St. Catharines. That's where I started attending school, in fact, and we moved from there to here in 1960. And so I was quite interested. It was a booming place as well. The Welland Canal and lots of commerce came through that area. His parents were farmers. They were originally English. We don't know that much about his upbringing, but he did drift west and came during the time of the gold rush. So he didn't have a trade as far as we knew. But when he got here, he discovered that Victoria did not have a carriage maker. And so he established a carriage works. I'm not sure where it was at the very beginning, but later on in the 1870s, and so it was on Government Street in the downtown area. And it was a good trade, eventually. Wagons heading up along the Caribou Road. He, in fact, built some of the first stagecoaches. If anyone has been to Barkerville, the gold rush town, they might have seen the replica, beautiful red stagecoaches from Barnard's Express. Well, Duck made some of the first ones, the real ones, made of wood. I'm not sure if any of the real ones survive. And his business prospered, and in the 1870s, I don't know if this was part of his family background or not, but he became interested very much in spiritualism. Mm-hmm. He'd married a widow. She had one child, and together they had a son by the name of William. And there doesn't seem to be any impetus, no child had died, that sort of thing, but anyway, it was quite a large spiritualist group in the city. James Fell, a grocer who became the mayor, he was very active. Ben Griffin, Oregon Columbus Hastings, whose grave is just over there, all of these people were part of a close-knit circle, and they had seances all the time. So Duck fell in with them, and in the 1870s, he often wrote letters to the editor. He held seances in his own home, and when mediums came, and they came just for entertainment, really, and they filled the theaters. And Duck was always there, presiding or being involved. He did get elected. He ran several times. He was defeated. He was elected, and he became a member of the provincial legislature immediately after we became part of Canada in 1871. He served for a while. He was defeated again, and then in the 1880s, he actually was elected and became the Minister of Finance for a number of years. And later on, 1892, he built a building on Broad Street for income. I don't believe his carriage works was going to be there. And he rented it out. Good income, I'm sure. And later on, his son, William, who became a lawyer, had his office in that building as well. But, in fact, the building was perhaps infamous, shall we say. People these days might read in the newspaper that certain places are known to the police. Well, indeed, Duck's building was one of them. Why? Well, because Victoria, back in the 1800s, there were many brothels. Sex workers were in the city in large numbers. Some of them had high-class places, and a woman by the name of Marvel Kahn had her brothel in Duck's building, 2 floors in fact, and she sold it in 1899, but when she'd arranged the sale, she had a horrible accident and fell down the stairs and broke her neck, and that was the end of Marvel Kahn. But the person who bought it in 1899 was Stella Carroll, and Stella Carroll was the premier madame in Victoria until Simeon Duck died in 1905. And at that point, nobody could protect her. If the police did take an interest, Simeon Duck was no longer there, and so Stella eventually had to move on to another place not too far away. Duck died in 1905. He was 70 at the time, which at that time was still considered a ripe old age. So in fact, when he was buried at Ross Bay Cemetery, this section of the cemetery, which is very close to Memorial Crescent, which is just over there, this section had just been acquired and was opened up. So most of the graves near us, right here, are some of the graves from the early 1900s. If we go a short distance over here, then we reach the older section that dates back to the early 1870s, and there are many people there buried 1873, 1874, and so on. And so Duck, when his grave was here, it looks all very lovely now with big mature trees and hardly any room for more tombstones, but in Duck's day, this would have been really like a stump field, with no trees at all.
And so we might feel scandalized that Duck was such a prominent figure and also supported the sex trade and spiritualism. But I guess, in those days, in the Victorian times, spiritualist movement was huge, and lots of well-to-do people were into mediums and table tipping and glass moving and seeing if they could get communication there. And of course, the sex trade, the oldest trade in the world, again, a legitimate business aspect for any prominent person. So probably not surprising for the times.
Very true. And we have just finished a provincial election. And of course, these days, with social media and things going viral so easily, politicians have to be really careful what they see, what they say, what they do, and anything they say is going to be immediately broadcast. I don't know if somebody who was a spiritualist and really promoted the fact would easily be elected today. There are lots of other things that perhaps people are criticized for, but if somebody was a spiritualist and promoted it, would they be elected? Think of Mackenzie King. People were scandalized when, after his lifetime, they discovered that he was a spiritualist and contacted his mother over important events. But Duck was well known as a spiritualist long before he was elected, and certainly long before he became the Minister of Finance. But it was accepted. Not everybody supported spiritualism. There was a division, often based on religious grounds, but nonetheless, there were very prominent people who were spiritualists, and it didn't seem to affect his standing in the polls at all.
So John, I read one account of where Duck hosted at his home a spiritualist evening. There were the great and the good were gathered there, and they took a poor medium and they handcuffed him and they put him in a straitjacket and locked him in a cupboard, and it was all very dramatic at the time. And you've got some insight into that story. I'd love you to share.
It's actually a very interesting one. It was 1877, and Mr. Peck, who was a professional medium and went on the circuit, came to Victoria for a while. He put on demonstrations in the Victoria Theatre, where the Bay Centre is today, and Duck had invited him to his own home, which is on Herald Street, very close to Chinatown today. And they had a private seance, but with some very prominent people involved. He doesn't mention who, but you can imagine James Fell, Oregon Columbus Hastings, and the whole crew. And it was a controlled seance. They put Mr. Peck in a kind of a bag with a drawstring around his neck. They blackened his hands with charcoal, and then they put him in a kind of a cupboard that covered part of his body, and then they laid musical instruments around him. And when the lights were doused, the musical instruments began to play. Hands of various sizes began to appear. It was quite clear they were not Mr. Peck's hands, because There was no black on them. There was automatic writing, all sorts of things like that. And of course, the people there were true believers, and they knew that this was quite legitimate. But soon afterwards, the colonists arranged to have a reporter and a committee, they called it a committee, of people that were definitely against this sort of thing. And so Mr. Peck was brought back. He was put in a straitjacket, which somehow they acquired from what was then called the lunatic asylum. Handcuffs as well. I'm not sure if they were from the jail or the lunatic asylum. We don't want to know, probably. And the same sort of thing. Hands were blackened. And the poor man was then tied into a sack so tightly around his neck, the poor man practically suffocated, and then locked in this cabinet. And he could hardly move. And they laid the instruments around and waited for something to happen. And a whole hour passed, and of course, surprise, nothing happened. And the colonists reported on this the following day and said it was a humbug. That was the term they used. And so Duck, very carefully, it was a very well-crafted, very measured letter, wrote and described the earlier seance, and then said, well, what do you expect? A medium needs energy. They need to expend all their energy in order to communicate with the spirits and to do what they do. And if the medium is struggling to literally survive and to breathe, there's no energy left. In fact, when poor Mr. Peck was released from this bondage, he almost passed out. They had to revive him. And so Duck said, well, come on, what do you expect? But I'm sure the people that believed still believe, and the people that didn't believe didn't believe. But that was an example. He lived on Harold Street, and we know there were many seances in his home. And quite often in the homes of the others. James Fell, for example, who lived near Central Middle School, often had seances in his house, and they were reported in the newspapers, sometimes favorably, sometimes like there would be sports events reported today.
So we are actually going to go to the Duck building on Broad Street. We're going to go later. We've been invited by a local artist who works out of there. So do you think Duck would have held any seances there?
Well, it's difficult to say. His carriage works was not in that building, although his son did use part of it as an office, I think at street level. I'm not sure that Duck would have kept an office there himself. He might have. We don't have any record of that. So it's doubtful, especially with a brothel right next door or upstairs, perhaps, but people might have been distracted by that sort of thing. So, and his house was only 2 blocks away, so I'm not sure why there would be a need to have a seance there. Certainly not the public seances, because the Victoria Theatre was just 2 blocks the other way. And so my hunch is, no, he wouldn't have had seances there. But if you are going there might be a couple of questions that you can ask for me, and for others, I'm sure, because Duck owned the building from 1892 when he built it until his death in 1905. And Marble Conn did fall down the stairs, and some wonder whether she was pushed by Stella Carroll or somebody else, but Stella was the one who bought it right away, so there might have been an ulterior motive. But just to ask about Marble, how did Marble meet her end? And there are people, I wonder if our artist friend will have heard this, a horrible noise on the stairs. And indeed, there is lots of activity on the stairway and in certain rooms upstairs where sometimes artists discover their works being pushed around. So there is lots going on, and I would like to find out more. We do tell stories about that building as we pass by on one of our ghostly walks. Things taking place upstairs, and also a restaurant long gone that used to be down on the Broad Street level, where a woman started working and discovered that the spirit of the former owner, an elderly woman, was there. Of course, the woman didn't really want to give it up, and the woman who was hired was able to contact her, or vice versa, and so they held conversations, and the spirit of the older woman would actually let her know she was there by tinkling all the spatulas and other things that were hanging on the hooks. And it was almost like a musical interlude when she was making contact. And when the woman, the employee, wasn't there, then the spirit began to act up. And it was only when they discovered that it happened when the woman was away that they understood what was going on. So before she left, they said, please, please tell her you're only going away for a short while. That made it a little bit better. So if you can find out a little bit more about some of those details,
Excellent.
that would be good for me.
Well, we're very excited to go to the Duck building, and we're also, I have so much gratitude for John, who's taken time out of his day to share his wisdom and his knowledge of Victoria, of the history of Victoria and Simeon Duck as well. And you know, if you are in Victoria, I would definitely check out his historic walking tours as well as the ghost walking tours, which are absolutely amazing. And I am going to put in the links below, links to John's site, so that you can get in touch with him. It's been an honour and a pleasure. Thank you so much, John.
Oh, you're welcome, Dawn. I always enjoy talking to you.
Excellent, thank you. So we are here in the amazing Duck building with local artist Dale Roberts.
Hello.
So we are going to take a tour of Dale's wonderful space so that you can get to see his artwork first before we start talking about some ghostly goings on.
I've been in the studio now for 15 years. I just celebrated an anniversary, and in that time I've been doing a lot of artwork, and in the last 6 years or so I've been doing needle felted portraits as one of the main artworks. But I continue doing assemblage with found objects, sculpture with crochet here.
So Dale, these are amazing. I mean, this one just shouts out at me. I love the era, the
Yes.
style.
It's Marcel Duchamp's alter ego.
Wow,
Rose, c'est la vie.
it's just amazing.
And I've done a larger version of that one.
And my husband would like Dr. Strange.
Yes.
Wow. And you do these all by hand?
Yes. It's actually over here. See, it's little needle right here.
Wow.
And I just select wool, and so for the sculptural works, much more time consuming, but basically months of doing this and building up layers and creating the form.
Wow. It's incredible.
There.
And not just the process, but oh, I recognise Dame Edna.
Yes.
Not just the process, but the your choice of colours. I mean, that's an
Yes.
artist's eye.
Yeah. It, one of the recent works is very much like painting with wool. It's great fun to blend and create various tones, like merging.
promised you some ghost stories, so we are here, as I say, with Dale Roberts, and he gets to hang out in the Duck building, and you get to experience the ghostly goings on. So
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about the activity that you experienced?
Well, even this morning I was here, and this has happened a number of times. It's as if someone is out here and they're calling out my name. And this morning it was clear as day. Because I thought, well, maybe John is here. He came, because he said he wasn't coming down, but I thought, oh, he must be here. So I say, hello. And I come out and there's no sign of anybody.
Yeah. And it's a male voice?
It's a male voice.
And is it always a male voice?
Yeah, I think it is, actually, now I think about it. I haven't actually thought about it too much. I just react because I come out and I think, and there was one early, I guess a few years ago now, I came out, I was in the room working, and clearly someone was walking towards my door, and I came out and I looked, I thought someone was actually in the room and they must have been hiding or something, because I kept calling out. I said, who's here? What's going on? And there was no sign of any person, but clearly there was something happening. And
do you ever get frightened?
No,
No.
I actually don't, because I talk to them all the time. I say, well, you know, I have images of Stella, I talk about her, I talk about Simeon and the building, and I know about Marble and the story of her fall. So I think, you know, that's part of the history of the building.
Yeah. And you don't feel threatened?
I
It's
don't.
just like
I don't feel threatened by it. No, there was one day where I was out here somewhere, and this chill that passed through the room. My hair did stand up, and it did sort of set a little chill of, oh, what is that about? Now I did find, I guess that was when I was doing the big cleanup here, there was a kind of speaker, I guess it was like a baby monitor thing, where a speaker and you have a telecom thing where you listen to the other. So I guess, I don't know why it was in the box that was here. So I thought, oh, I wonder if I put that in another room and I go over there, would I hear something?
Oh.
And so I just thought, who knows, maybe there'll be something. But there was clearly some staticky, almost voice sound, but I thought, how much am I pushing this little moment? But I thought, well, if
you got to try it.
you got to try it.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I haven't seen anything in terms of seeing someone in the space, but certainly can feel them.
And do any other kind of people in the building, do they talk about experiences?
I haven't heard, because I come and work and I don't get to see them.
Keep yourself to
So I don't know what their stories are. Now I know this space has had a lot of interesting people over the years be here, and I'm sure there's lots of stories that could be dug up from other artists that were here. I should actually talk to a couple of the artists I know that were here. See if I have anything to tell you.
Well, how long have you been in the building?
15 years now.
15 years.
Yeah, just celebrated 15 years.
Wow. Happy anniversary.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely, we were here, was it 7 years ago?
Yeah.
And it was the first time we met Dale. And it's changed so much. It's, your artwork is just grown and matured, and it just looks, it's beautiful, it's stunning. It really has taken me.
Well, I feel like a connection to Stella when I'm working on building the ambiance of the place. I feel like she'd enjoy all of the sparkle and glitter and fun.
And you've got a homage to Stella as well, which is lovely. But when we were talking to John Adams, what he was saying was that he doesn't think that Simeon Duck had offices here at all. So he was very curious as to whether or not the activity was to do with Stella, or maybe even connected to the predecessor who was met her untimely death here and
Uh-huh.
all of the mystery and intrigue around, was she pushed or did she fall?
Yes.
So
Yes,
he would love
that's-
us to do a little bit of reaching out to see
Uh-huh.
whether or not we can connect with
Yes.
Stella or with what was the
Marvel.
Marvel, that was
Yes,
it. Should
Marvel
remember
Con.
that, Marvel Comics.
Yes. Marvel Con.
Marvel
Yeah.
Con, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so it's mostly auditory. that
Yes,
we do.
and sensations. Now, I would love to have, I think it would be great to do something to see whether we could have a moment.
we brought a
Oh,
little
you
bit of
did?
equipment with
Oh,
us.
lovely. Let's.
And we would love to come back and do something more fulsome
Yes.
with more equipment.
Oh,
And of course we'll all be
Yeah.
COVID appropriately masked and things like that. But if we could put some cameras out and do
Yeah.
lots of audio and stuff like that, we would love it.
Okay.
But we did bring a few little
Okay,
pieces.
sounds good.
Marvelous.
Let's do it.
No, but who's your partner?
John.
John, bless me. I know who Dale is. I hope so. I hope so. So we'd love to talk to you. Where's Robert in my head?
Well,
That's
ask
weird.
us.
Who's Robert? Somebody.
I think I heard Dale there.
Yeah, so maybe Robert's talking to Dale.
Yeah. So do you know Dale?
He's definitely talking.
We'd love to reach out to any of the spirits that are here in this building.
Hey, man's talking.
It is a man
Hey,
talking.
man.
So, oh, hello. So my name's Dawn, Matilda's here. And of course you know Dale because
You know
he's here all the time.
You know me? I talk to you all the time. Hello.
Can you tell us your name? Are you happy for us to be here?
There's a woman in there too.
Yes.
Can the woman come forward? Who's the woman in there? What's your name? That was really strong.
Sounded like shite. We'd love to reach out to maybe some of the maybe some of the people that was so associated with this building. So Stella, are you here?
We call Stella.
Stella? Are you here, Stella? Hello, Stella.
Another person that we'd love to talk to is Simeon Duck. If you're here, we're in your building. That was
Full sentence.
a whole
Full
sentence.
sentence.
Hello, Simeon.
The other person that we'd love to hear from is Marvel. We'd love to know if you fell accidentally or were you pushed.
Yeah. Someone fell down the staircase.
Margot? What happened? Did you fall? Fall?
Fall.
Push. What happened?
Marvel, is that you? Can you come through a little bit clearer? Can you come step forward? We would like to just put an end to the story around your sadly demise. Did you fall?
What is your name?
Tall or
I
bald?
almost said tall.
Yeah.
Was it tall? Who are you?
So we're inviting the spirits that are here in this building to use our energy, to use your energy, to move this glass in a way that we can create a line of communication with you.
Trying to get super light. So.
Yeah. So Stella or Simeon or Marvel, is that a little bit too far away
No,
for
it's
you?
good. I'm good.
Can you come forward? Can you use our energy, use your energy and move this glass for us?
There's sounds behind.
But you probably recognize this, Simeon.
Oh, I feel movement.
Yes, I do too.
I feel movement, but I don't know how it. Oh yeah, it is moving. Yay!
Excellent.
Excellent. My
Keep going.
finger's barely on there too.
Move the glass.
Oh, look at that go. That's amazing.
Move the glass. I'm just going to have to...
It feels funny, like it's sitting underneath us.
Cheers. There we go.
I'm gonna change fingers.
We need to find out who you are, so this
Yeah.
glass needs to be moving a little bit more definite for us.
Yeah.
Can you push it towards Dale?
Yeah, push it towards Dale. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's, I'm not, yeah, honestly, my finger's barely touching. Barely touching. Move it towards Dale again. Oh, look at that. It's, yeah, maybe put both.
This arm's just gone
Yeah,
dead, so...
okay. Move towards Dale. Oh, look at that go, huh?
Excellent.
That's the accent. Keep going.
Build
keep
the
going.
energy up.
The energy. It's okay. You can make the lights fade a bit. Use the energy for... Oh, look at that.
Keep moving it
The
towards
lights
Dale
fade,
for
yes.
us.
You can take the energy from the lights. Dale said it's okay, right?
Yes.
There you go. Oh, look at that power. Wow.
Simeon, is that you? Are you here?
Simeon, if this is you, can you move towards Dale? Oh my god. Oh my god. My finger's barely on there.
Barely on there.
Yeah.
Can you pull some energy and move towards Dale so we know it's you, Simeon? A little bit more? Please? I know you want to play. You love this stuff.
Yes.
Oh, look at it go. You see, dead arms.
I know.
So you go ask it a question. Or Simeon, if it's Simeon, it must be because it's moving.
Simeon, are you okay with me making artwork about you?
Look at it go. Look at it go there. What the heck? So it's moving towards
Are you
Yeah.
okay with the artwork?
Wow.
Are you?
Move it more towards Dale if you're okay with the artwork.
Oh my
Wow.
god, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Look at that go. It kind of went up.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
Can you bring it back to the center for us? Bring it back to the
Okay.
center.
It needs energy. It doesn't have a lot of energy, does it?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it does have
There you
energy.
go.
Well, I guess I challenged him. Did I challenge
Yeah.
him, I think? I think I
Okay.
challenged Mr. Simeon.
So we do want to know if this is you, Simeon Duck, Mr. Duck. Can you push this glass towards Dale if you are indeed Simeon Duck, famous spiritualist of Victoria?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. We can't make this up, can we?
Yeah, no,
It's like
this is
amazing.
amazing. Because I'm just.
It feels fun, but my fingers are freezing
Yeah.
on the top of the glass.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
oh wow.
oh.
Thank you. Go back to
I can't even follow
center.
it. Trace.
Wow.
Back to center.
I guess does it know what center is? Or center of the
Center of the table.
there.
Take it back to the middle of the table.
That's
So we
really
got
good. That's
Simeon
very
Duck.
good. I think it's a hardly on that. It's like,
I know.
look at her. Okay.
So are you okay if I call you Simeon? Move the glass towards Dale if you're okay if we call you Simeon.
Look at that.
Okay.
It's
Thank
like my
you.
finger can't even follow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Simeon, are you aware of like Victoria now in this present day? It's 2020.
If you are, go towards there. If you're with us now and you know what year it is. Huh? Not sure. Not sure.
Yeah.
It's stuck kind of, you feel it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it still the 1800s for you?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Can you move this back to the center
It's
of the
funny
table?
because when it stopped, our fingers kept
I know,
going
yeah.
until the glass stopped.
Like, whoa.
What? So he's still in the...
1800s.
So he died, when did he die? 1905?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's still there.
Do you remember this building, Simeon?
Nothing.
No.
That's it. It's like he ran.
Yeah.
He's like, what? I'm dead?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
Oh no. Oh.
No, he's still
okay.
There's movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be somebody else. He's gone.
Could be.
You think?
If this is still Simeon, can you push the glass towards Dale? If this is somebody new, could you push the glass towards me?
Oh. That didn't have a lot of energy.
No.
You can use the energy around. We will give you permission. Oh. See, every time we say that, it's
Yeah.
like, I guess it's using some...
Is this Stella? If this is Stella, can you move the glass towards Dale?
Stella?
Whoa, that's big storm.
Hello, Stella.
Oh. My finger's not even on there. Crazy.
Stella, did you run the brothel here? Move the glass towards Dale if you run the brothel.
It's spinning underneath us.
Yeah.
That feels weird.
You still with us, Stella?
It's moving. It's spinning. Oh. Whoa. Oh, it's getting energy.
Yeah.
Trying to spin. Wow. It's funny because you can really feel it. Look, my fingers on
My mind's not even
No.
moving. It's sitting. Oh.
Yeah.
Stella, if this is you, can you push the glass towards me? My name's Dawn.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay,
Oh
thank
my
you. Go
God.
back
Thank
to the
you.
center point for us.
Wow.
Wow, because wow. Keep trading.
Stella, did you run the brothel here? Push it towards me if you ran the brothel here. Is it called a brothel?
What would it have been called? It wouldn't have been called a... Oh. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you often visit this building, Stella? You here a lot?
Oh my goodness. That's strong.
Yes, that's...
Very oh.
Thank you, Stella.
Oh, it's getting energy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh.
This is... Do you have this on vid?
Yeah.
That's good. I keep hitting this in my head.
I know, it just makes me
Ridiculous.
laugh.
I just keep hitting it with my head.
Okay, Stella, stop doing that now. Because we do want to ask you some questions if you don't mind.
Oh, it's spinning underneath. Changing.
Hello, Stella.
Are you happy that we're talking to you, Stella?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, this is like pretty
Okay.
strong.
Yeah.
Hi,
it is.
Stella.
That's strong.
Okay, now just
Good
stop.
to hear from you.
Stop.
Okay,
Thank
calm
you.
down.
You're happy
good.
that you're talking to us. We're
Yes.
happy to be talking to you,
Yes.
Stella.
Wow.
It's like clicking.
Yeah, I think it's on the... well, no, I think it's going up and down, isn't
I
it?
think it's
Yeah.
going up and
Yeah.
down. Oh,
Stella, do you watch Dale work here in the building?
yeah. That's strong energy, huh?
Wow.
My hands, my fingers are going around it because they're not even on it.
Wow.
Do you watch Dale working, Stella?
Still goes.
Stella, do you enjoy it when we play games with you? Because we play Yahtzee and have her play with us.
Oh,
Yes? Oh.
Yeah.
Look at that. That was, she loves Yahtzee, obviously.
I tell you what, Stella,
We
can you
played
tip
dice.
the glass? Instead of moving it, can you tip the glass? Just gently
Yes.
tip the glass for us.
Yeah. It's doing weird things. That's
Yeah.
really weird.
Can you lift the glass off the table?
Whoa, okay.
Excellent.
Whoa.
Thank you.
What the heck?
All right, Stella.
Thank you,
Good
Stella.
to see
Holy
you.
Hannah.
You really
to
like
have
to
you
play
here.
games.
All right.
Still.
Yes,
Yeah. It's all,
hello.
oh, isn't that funny?
We like playing.
Okay.
All
I
right.
can't reach anymore.
Yeah, okay, we gotta
We're
go
going to
back
bring it back to the center.
up. All right.
It's getting cooler again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stella, is there anybody here with you? Do you have anybody here with you? Push the glass towards Dale if there are other...
Oh, wow.
who-
Oh, that's...
okay,
oh, it's
who's here?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is Simeon here with you?
Oh. That's sort of like, what? It stops, it wants to stop, doesn't it?
Can you push the glass towards the...
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think we've given it a lot of energy there.
So we've got Simeon and we've got you, Stella. Is that correct? Yes.
Wow.
Thank you. Now
Don't know
listen,
what it's
Stella,
doing.
there is a question that we have about Marvel.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
There's a lot of speculation about whether Marvel was pushed or whether she fell. Do you know anything about that? If you do,
Wow.
can you push this glass towards Dale if you know something about that? Thank you. Come back to the center point for us. So Stella, the $64 million question.
Yes.
Was Marvel murdered? Push the glass towards Dale if Marvel was murdered. Oh,
Oh, okay.
That is so cold. Feel that.
okay. Oh, it's freezing.
Holy, that's really quite chilly.
So Stella, do you know who murdered Marvel? Push the glass towards Dale if you know who murdered Marvel.
Wow. She does.
Stella, just between us three,
Oh.
were you involved in that? Were you involved in Marvel's murder?
Wow. What?
Okay.
So
Is
just
that a no?
just to be clear, if the answer to this question is no, do push it towards
Yeah.
where you were going. Just push it straight forwards if the answer is no.
That's very weird.
So,
I don't know what it's going to move
Okay.
for. Oh.
so Stella,
off.
are you okay with us talking about this? Push it towards Dale if you're okay with us talking about it. Push it towards me if you're not, and if you're not okay to us talking about it, we won't. Do you want to talk to this lady?
I'll put my finger off it because why me? Okay.
All right.
All right. Stella, was it one of your customers? Oh. Oh.
Oh,
She's
We're just
spinning,
going
she's
round,
spinning,
yeah.
she's spinning.
all
Do you
right.
have something else to say? Oh, okay. I don't know what to do with this. she has something else to say. What would you think? What would she want to say to you?
Stella, are you still in this building all the time?
All the time, wow.
Yes.
Stella, do you want to leave this building? Do you want to, go to heaven
Why do
or
I have to
whatever?
do that? Look. Oh, it won't even... It likes me. She likes me. Okay.
Yes.
What can I do? Can I do something for you? What? How do I... I don't even know how to ask what I can do for you, Stella. Can I help with the matter and figure it out for you? Oh. So she must know then who did it.
Yeah.
Now,
So
was it at
you
her
know?
time?
Yeah.
It was at the time of her?
So Stella took over. Stella took over her
Don't even touch me.
Marvel's
You do it.
brothel.
You do it. Yes?
Stella took over Marvel's brothel.
Okay.
Yes.
So the idea or the supposition was that somebody killed Marvel, so Stella could do that.
Yes.
That is icy.
Yeah.
So someone... That's pushed. Is that why she pushed it? Someone killed her?
Well, nobody knows.
Yes.
No. I'm going to take my thing off.
Yes.
Oh, did you feel the table? It just shook.
Yeah.
Do you want to try the table instead?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move
Did you
to...
feel the table? I hope it's on there because it will have done that when we redo
So
it.
we're going to just see if we can...
Not that I wanted to. What the heck?
So again, this is a wonderful spiritualist way in which we can communicate with you. Can you rap on this table? Can you make a noise? Can you knock on it?
That the lights just went. Should we turn that off or should we keep it on?
Oh, I think we should keep
Keep
it
it
on, yeah. You can talk to us through here. We're recording, we might hear your voice, but you can use the energy that you've built up to knock on this table
So it pulled some energy from the lights.
or to move this table in some way.
Can you knock like this?
Do you feel, Stella, that you were wrongly, like people were thinking bad of you and you had nothing to do with what happened to Marvel? Are you hoping to put the records straight? I heard a bang there.
Yeah, I did too. It's very, very big. Thank you. I feel energy build up here like crazy.
I can actually feel like the table
Yeah.
just moving. Stella, we would love to put the record straight for you. You know, if you were not involved, we'd love to know that. We'd love to help
Make
you.
it bang again. Let's see. Hopefully off.
Make it bang again for
Yeah,
us.
make a bang for us if you want us to help you. Just bang or not. Something that's audible to us so we can take it as a responsive yes. So she sees you every day. We've already said so. Right. She's here, so you talk to her because she's gonna know your voice. Right?
Hi, Stella. It's me again. Do you like it when we have our games with you? We enjoy playing with you. And we hope that it's you that's here, and we talk to you, and we enjoy. So do you hear us? Are you here with us now? Stella, are you here? Hi, Stella. I know it's hard to get through.
That was
Hi,
definitely a
Stella.
man.
We're here for you now.
Can you bang on this table?
You know Dale, you play games with him. Don't you play games with Dale? Is this your house when he's not here?
Do you like to win
Yeah.
when we play?
Yes. Did you hear that?
Yes. So you like it when we win. And we say, Marvel and Stella. Yes, come in, play with us.
There you go. That's amazing.
How about Simeon? Is he here now? Does he like to play too? How about Simeon? I wonder about Jay Unwin. This used to be his studio too. Do you know him? You probably do. Stella? Stella?
I think we might need to, because we've been running for it a long time. We are gonna close this off now, Stella, if that's okay with you. Thank you for talking.
Thank you, Stella.
Dale, thank you so much for allowing us to spend time here. And is there anything that you'd like to say at the end of this?
I just want to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure having you both here. And I think Stella, Marvel, Simeon, Jay, they're all happy that you've made it. And I'm sure they say thank you too.
Yay, thank you.
See you next time.
See you next time.